Battles on the horizon, chaos in the land. Sickness spreads like fire, can we stand hand in hand? End of the age as iniquity increase. Waiting on Yahushua's kingdom where all wars must cease. Worlds collide, it's that fury, it's that rage. The system's crumbling, we're shattering in cage. From the ashes we rise, this is more than just a phase. Channels of justice ignites, ablaze new ways.
In this storm, we scream for salvation. Yahushua's kingdom comes, our final liberation.
Welcome back to another episode of Exiled Strangers. Today we have a special episode for you guys. It's a testimony. Now, obviously we're keeping it anonymous and all that type of stuff, but it's a pretty fun testimony, but we'll get into that in a minute. Before we do, remember, if you want to sign up to give your testimony, hit up the email exiledstrangers@proton.me. That's exiledstrangers@proton.me. How you doing, nobody?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this testimony. I think it's always encouraging and really edifying to hear what other people in this walk have gone through.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the similarities that you see and the uniqueness in these different testimonies and stuff. But yeah, hopefully a bunch of you guys find it, relatable and just as entertaining for you guys as it was for us.
Yeah, it's you nailed it there with the similarities that a lot of us tend to experience, especially when we're being called out into the actual true walk. So this sister that we're going to be receiving the testimony from, I mean, this is a testimony that I think a lot of us can relate in many ways with the way we were brought up and the ways that we lived our lives into young adulthood, and depends on when the Father called you out, but this is one also of an amazing healing, and really bringing us, bringing this sister, but in many ways a lot of us experience this too, to the end of ourselves, so that we can accept the Father and His ways. But
absolutely. Now, with that being said, let's get on into the episode.
So we grew up very Catholic, very Italian, very Boston, very ignorant, pagan holidays, all that. And so no real relationship, but just knew of him. We loved God. That's how we knew him. But it was really a hypocritical lifestyle. We only went to church when we had to confess sins, and I never thought that was right. But so yeah, we didn't. And then years had gone by, and it was probably my parents. We had moved to Maine for a while, and my mom had got involved with a church group. And up in Maine, they were like all Christians. And I remember her telling my dad about it, and he was like, "You're not going to change me, blah, blah, blah." And then all of a sudden they're pouring all that alcohol down the drain. And me and my sister were like, "What?" So we were like, we got to catch some of that before they get rid of it all. And so it was around that age. But we had moved back to the Boston area. I was probably about 18 at this point, and they literally dragged me to a Christian church. And everyone knows this story. I was like kind of waltzing in at like 6 a.m. from the night before, and they made me like put on a coat and turn around and go right back out and go to church. And that was my beginning. I was like half asleep, makeup all worn off, looked like crap. And from that day, those people that met me prayed very hard for me. And but then something just started changing in me. And I, quote unquote, got saved, and things were just looking so different. Like I had a new lens for the first time in my life, right? And I was noticing the trees, the leaves on the trees, and everything was just so beautiful. And then my parents decided they wanted to move out of state to Florida, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my friends. And I'm like, no, I'm old enough to be on my own. I'm an adult. I'm going to do it myself. And that was a mistake, because I just fell right into a sinful lifestyle. And it was just, for the next decade or so of my life, But when I was first saved, I had like this desire to like, I wanted to like share with everybody and like, and sick people especially. And there was this one girl, I just want to tell you guys this story real quick. There was this one girl,
Oh yeah.
her name was Cindy Denny. I'll never forget. And I went to school with her, but everyone made fun of her because she had like, didn't talk right. And come to find out she had a brain tumor. And I was very drawn to her, and I'd go knock on her door. I always felt bad for the people that people wouldn't talk to or made fun of. And I would just knock on her door and she'd come out and I would just pray. I just wanted to pray and I wanted to share God and like, he's real and I can feel him and all that. And so I met with her every day until one day she didn't answer the door. Her mom didn't answer the door and she died. So,
Oh man.
yeah, that was that. But I was just partying so much and living my life that just became a faded memory to me. And you know, that's how that went. And basically I just started, you know, I got hurt really bad. And it was like, after that, I kind of had a checklist in my life. Like, I'm going to become successful. I had like a checklist, a bucket list, if you will. And I accomplished the things on my bucket list. It was almost like, well, because love failed me, I will just do everything I can to be successful and, you know, make myself something and known or whatever. And, you know, all that ignorant stuff that really doesn't matter. And so that's how, you know, and when I started not feeling good and getting sick, that really turned me, even though I started seeking before I had this experience. And literally, the only way I can describe it is as the glory of Yah was upon me in his kingdom. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like his power and his glory. But he definitely allowed me to be slowed down. And I had already started seeking out Christian churches because of this void in my life. And I'll share all this. And there was just this void. And I just couldn't fill it. You know, I couldn't have kids, so it wasn't that. But then, you know, I had my niece and nephew who filled that void. Got a dog, wasn't that. And it was the presence of Yah. It was a relationship with Yah that was missing, that I was so desperately seeking and just wanted so bad. And I didn't know it until I got sick. And that's where it all began. That's when my life was turned right side up.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's definitely get into it.
I know. I'll just keep talking. I'll just talk all night long now. So.
No, yeah, you're good. I mean, it's funny that all of that was just the preface. We didn't even get to the story yet. You definitely have an interesting life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you know. I tend to think that it's like how most people started, but I don't know. I only know my story, right? And but we all have one. We all have a few, I think.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. What you got, nobody?
No, I was agreeing, and yeah, covered a lot of ground there, right? And I say let's back it up if you want to cover any of these moments in greater detail or describe more, even just what's going on in your heart and your mind, you know, and get into it.
Yeah, so, well, you know, first I do want to thank you guys for having me on tonight and inviting me, and it's just an absolute pleasure. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very excited and just absolutely honored to be able to share what Yahavah has allowed me to witness and testify, you know, of his awesome presence. It's just incredible, and every chance I get to share it, I just get real excited. You know, he's alive, he's real, his glory is real, and you know, it's for everyone to experience. And that's something that, you know, something I used to hear, like when I'd hear testimonies, and I would be like, well, yeah, she's the pastor's wife, or yeah, sure, that's the pastor's daughter. They grew up in a godly, quote unquote, home with prayer over them. And certainly that wasn't for me, and even reading about the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's like, yeah, well, that was them. It's like,
Sure.
is that really for someone like me? And yeah, it is. It really is. And boy, I'll tell you, oh my gosh, he's just so incredibly awesome. And praise Yah, the Most High. There is no other. There's none other. It's only Him. And but I also do want to say another thing that I think is really awesome, that you guys have extended an open invitation and allowing people like me to share how awesome Yah is in our testimonies, because I do believe, and you'll see that I just get so passionate, and forgive me if I just get overwhelming at sometimes, but I do believe
You're
that.
good.
Things. I do believe that testimonies are uplifting, right? And they do help strengthen, and it helps us strengthen our faith. We strengthen one another. And I do believe, with this faith being, put forth and received, I believe that it does strengthen the physical and the spiritual body as a whole. And I just believe that with all of my heart, because and something that's been coming to me a lot the past couple of weeks is that hope deferred makes a heart sick, right? And it's like, well, because there's no hope. So we have to have that hope in His glory, and that He's real. And so, these testimonies will literally shine light on what's available for all of us that believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And thank you for coming on and having the courage to come and share your testimony. I know it's something that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially in podcast platform, because most people aren't used to being interviewed on a podcast. But thank you so much for having the courage to come and share your testimony with everybody.
Absolutely. It's an honor. It really is. And like I said, I'm extremely excited, because all the glory goes to Yah, right? And He's allowed all of this, and I'm just so forever thankful. And so, okay. So I do want to share the day that is forever etched in every chamber that I have in my heart, in my mind, in my body, in my soul, my whole being. It's just like I said, my world has been turned right side up. Didn't say I'm perfect, and didn't say it's perfect, but I do believe it's being perfected through our King Mashiach Yeshua. And that's what we strive for, right? Perfection in Him and through Him. I'll speak for myself. I can't do nothing on my own. Anything I've ever done has been a mistake or a disaster. So,
I'm in that same boat, sister. Same boat.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, we all, and like everyone, and I will share a somewhat brief history on my background and how I grew up, and like I said, it was a lifestyle of honoring pagan traditions of man. The what we called worship was now I see is totally hypocritical. It just wasn't. It was far from what Yah had planned for us, and I can see clearly these days how far we've come from the garden, so to speak, and from His presence is what I should say. So far from His presence, and everything's just been kind of a deceitful lie, and we don't know it. We don't know that we've been duped by the devil, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But I'm in desperate need. I'm in desperate need. I'm a sinner. I'm in desperate need of salvation. I was then. I still am. I'm in desperate need of Yeshua. I need Him. I need our King of Majesty. I need the lover of my soul, my existence. And there's just, I think the closer that we draw to Him, it's just the more you need Him, the more you see that you need Him. So that's where I'm at. And so as a child growing up, hypocritical lifestyle, just traditions of man, lived in a house that was crawling with demons, literally had a lot of experiences. And I really don't want to go too much into that, because I just really want to give Yah glory, not what demons did, but I'll tell you what, they're real. And people that don't think they are, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, that's not real," and or the blood of Yeshua will cover that. And it's like, yeah, he does. He is in control of darkness. Darkness doesn't control him, but it is real. And
Yeah.
I think the enemy banks on our ignorance. It's a wide open door when we're in disobedience and sin. We're literally unarmed, so
Well, and I do agree with you, right? Like giving all the glory and praise to Yah. But that being said, like look where he's brought you now. So if you do want to get into any sort of details with that, it could be very valuable to somebody who can now maybe even hear this and identify it in their own life, in their own household. You know what I mean? Not
Absolutely.
realizing,
Yeah.
not realizing it's a demonic presence or something like that.
yeah.
Just a brief point in that category. I had back pain for years, and it literally felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back until my wife and I went through Deliverance, and then literally that back pain had gone away. So something that was demonic oppression that I wasn't thinking it was ended up being demonic oppression, and yeah,
Yeah.
I was living in unnecessary pain just out of ignorance more than anything.
Wow. Wow. And I do believe that a lot of it is unnecessary. And Yah knows us inside and out. He created us, and some things, people will say, well, then why did God allow that to happen? And it's like, why are we blaming him? We're the ones that
Yeah.
are in ignorance. Sin is what draws the wedge between us. It's not his fault. He gives us a roadmap. He gives us instructions. We have, we do have to follow them. But it's not that we have to. We should want to. We should desire to. He tells us how to draw nigh to him, close to him. I mean, his breath is our life, our existence. I just, when we see more and more what the devil has done, I don't know if that's what you want to say, the devil, Satan, our accuser, whatever you call him. I don't even know really what to call him, darkness.
Yeah.
But
the
he's our
adversary.
enemy.
Yeah.
Adversary, yeah, he's our enemy. And so when I was a child, wow, there was so much that went on in that house, that particular home. I mean, I saw things. I'd be woken up in the middle of the night, and I would just see like these demons. Well, they were more than demons, I think, because they weren't just. They were like these. I'd hear this mumbling and this murmuring, and not murmuring, mumbling, grumbling, or whatever, and it was like these voices, but it was these two men with black cloaks on, and they would draw closer and closer till they were beside the bed I was sleeping in. And I would always be so frightened. But one night I was bold and turned and looked, and they acknowledged that they saw me. And I was so frightened. It was like a lot of trauma in that home. I was petrified in that house. I was afraid to go to sleep. These things would come every single night like clockwork. And yeah, it was a horrible experience. And even, no, I don't want to go there. Yeah, so that was that. I'll fast forward a little bit if you don't mind, without getting into too much in family things.
Sure.
If,
Let me just say this though, real quick. What you
yeah.
described, like seeing these apparitions, or like Second Baruch 27, chapter 27 talks about like the specters of the Shadim. There were the demons.
Mm-hmm.
This seems to be a very common occurrence with believers who have now been pulled into the walk of both, spirit and truth, like worshiping in the Ruach and being obedient now. It seems like the enemy has had our numbers since day one,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that for sure.
I definitely agree
Yeah.
with that. Well, I guess there's a few other things I will share. So in that house, I started developing seizures. And my parents, they had every single test you could imagine. whatever they could do. And the doctors kept saying, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong. We can't find anything wrong. And so it stopped after we got out of that house, but it was horrible. And I would see I remember one night, it's clear as day in my head. It's one night I opened my eyes and looked, and we had a wooden closet door, like a double closet door, and there was a guy laying down with blood. He was just covered in blood, like he had been slaughtered. And we found out later that our house was built on an Indian burial ground. So, so I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of things floating around, and we did in that house, which I have repented of, use the Ouija board. So we invited all the things that were floating around in there. We were just kids, but my parents were in total ignorance. My dad, I don't know if anyone's ever seen that movie, The Shining, but I don't watch stuff like that anymore. But my dad literally turned not like that bad, but bad. And he used to sit in we had a finished off cellar and with a bar and a pool table and stuff like that. But he would just sit there, and he had this glaze in his eyes, and we just stayed away from him. We became frightened of him, and he didn't hurt us in any way or abuse us, but he put his fist through some walls and stuff. He was a different man. Let's just put it that way.
Wow.
And, but some freaky things happened in that house that, and my parents had heard and saw things with their eyes wide open, but we all kept it silent. Everybody was afraid to say something. And I had an aunt that was very Catholic, and she had a priest to come bless our house, and the doorbell wouldn't ring. They couldn't get through to us, and we tried to light candles and pray, and the glass would just break. It would just bust all over the place.
Oh,
and
wow.
I've got some stories about that house, and it was just, it was horrible. There was a lot of trauma though, because I was young. I was 4 and 5. I mean, we lived there for 8 years, and it was very traumatic. A lot of trauma.
The stuff with the demons sitting by the side of your bed, I wonder how often and how frequent that actually is with children. But it just gets chalked up to being oh, you have monsters under your bed, or oh, it's just your imagination.
Right.
Having listened to stories like this before, or hearing stories about this with children being messed with by demons, the first time my daughter comes up to me and says, "Daddy, there's a monster in the room," I'm busting out the AR and the shofar, and we're gonna see what's what.
Exactly.
Well, that's a really good point. I mean, even I can remember back to my childhood, very similar things, and this is a common thread. It seems to be with Yah's chosen people, those that have been called out. It's I keep hearing it. I keep hearing it over and over.
Yeah. Now, out of curiosity, did you have anything mess with you in your dreams? Do you have any prominent dreams that stick out from when you were a child?
Oh, when I was a child, I liked my dreams, because and even to this day, when I was, later on, and even especially after having this experience, I know when I'm dreaming. I know it's a dream, and that's kind of interesting to me. But when I was a child, that's when that started. But I would just dream, fun things, and this is only a dream, and I can fly, and I always try to fly, or I get this candy there, and I can steal it because it's only a dream. I'm not going to get in trouble, and stuff like that. And but I did have one time, I do remember that there was this large animal chasing me, and I couldn't get out of the dream, and I was frightened. I was really frightened, and I ran into our cellar, basement area, into a bathroom, and I was closing my eyes and saying, "This is only a dream, it's only a dream, it's only a dream." And I'd open my eyes, and I was still in the dream. I couldn't get out of it. And that's kind of weird to me. I don't know how. I mean, I don't do anything freaky, nothing new age, nothing, no astral projection, anything like that. I nothing. This was just a child having a dream. But But no, I didn't have anything. This was all live. You know, everything I experienced,
Yeah.
like when those two things, they didn't have faces, by the way. So when I looked at them, there were no faces, just the black hoods. And they literally addressed me. They went, "Look, her eyes open." And that's when I was like, and shoved my face into the pillow. I was so afraid. But they also, you know, when I'd sleep with my covers under my hands, like in a fist, and my face in the pillow, because I knew it was going to happen. I knew I was going to wake up in the middle of the night. But what would happen is I would feel the blankets slowly get pulled down till they were off me. And that happened every single night. And then I would hear them coming from the living room. And there was a creak in our floor before you came into my bedroom, and the floor would creak. So then I knew they were approaching quick. They were almost like beside the bed. And yeah, it was real. It was real. It was no dream. And it was, there's other things too. My parents had, one night had heard literally a party going on in our basement, and they were like, "Do you hear that?" And they're like, you know, my uncle was like, "Yeah, I hear that." So my dad grabbed his gun, and they, you know, opened the door, and as soon as they opened the door, everything stopped. But they said you could smell like stale cigarette smoke.
Oh,
So
man.
Wow.
yeah, like there was a real party going on. And there were freaky things that happened in that basement. When my cousins used to come over, we would go downstairs and in the cellar or basement. I keep calling it a cellar. Go down in the basement, and we would shut all the lights out and play like a zombie game. And we all saw stuff, but we thought it was just our imagination. And now we know better now. So
Sure.
Wow.
it was interesting. But those
I guess
things,
that really speaks.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that really speaks to like how fragile a child's mind is. You know what I mean? The innocence of a child's mind, even to, I guess, be able to dismiss these things based on what they're told as well. You know, it's just, yeah, it's
Also, the pliability of a child's mind. Because if I'm in a basement and all the lights are off and I see something in that basement, it's not like I'm just going to go, like as an adult, I'm not going to just go brush that off. Like we're going
Right.
to figure out what was in the basement.
Yeah.
But as a child, you're like, oh, that must be my imagination. You just continue on with your zombie game. It's like the children are just able to like move on and get past a topic so quickly and so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really affected my sister, and it didn't affect me. I as a child growing up, I mean, it was Boston, right? So I grew up kind of tough, like defending myself and stuff. And my sister was a little weaker, and even to this day, she still like has a problem with what happened in that house, and it really affected her a lot because she would hear her name being called and hear things, you know, things under the bed calling her in like a voice that, you know, just like really kind of scary. And she got really wigged out. I mean, it wigged me out too. I mean, I was frightened, but I was trying to be tough in my own skin about it, you know, and that was just how I was. So, and then when I learned Deliverance and that, I was like, oh yeah, oh no, I don't think so. It's payback. I know better. But I do think,
Well,
you were saying, brother, I do think that these things, or maybe you both said it, these things do try to get you as a child, right? And try to enter you. And yeah, it's just it's a setup. It's a setup, you know. But anyway.
Wow.
yeah, it's
So your sister is still having issues from the same thing like you were going through with the like the demons on the side of the bed and stuff?
Yeah, she kind of is. She's always been drawn to, like, for some reason, like psychics and, you know, people that are into witchcraft. They're drawn to her, and she feeds off it. And it's like, I've been there to say, you know, no, But something's happened to her this past week, and all of a sudden she is saying that she hates the way she feels because she's been pretty negative and not nice to people, and she's all of a sudden like she goes, she just wants to change. She wants to know God, and that's where she's at right now, even though she's heard us.
Oh, wow.
Say, yeah,
That's awesome.
That's all just happened this week. I mean, literally, I've had her blocked till, the other night. And when I heard this, and she wants to pray, she's like, I want to pray. I want to pray with you. And it's like been a total turnaround. So I'm very thankful for that. So, but she saw, okay, so as a child, even with this, she had seen, we were all at this Catholic thing where you hold the candle and say rosaries. I forget, but something like that. And I remember as a child, she was like tugging on my mom, and she's like, Mom, look. She said, it's Jesus. Again, we didn't know the name. That's what we said at the time. And my mom looked up, and they literally saw across the sky a long white robe, like a man in a robe. And they to this day, that's been etched in their mind. They believe they saw him in some way. And when I looked up, it wasn't there. And I remember feeling really bad about that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, that's that. And so fast forward with that, if you guys don't have any more to say, ask or say about it.
No, you're good. Come on. You're good.
You good, brother?
Yeah, whatever you want to share.
Okay, so, that was kind of like the upbringing with that, and just being, like I said, traditions of man and just a defiled form of worship. That's the only way I can say it. In a nice way, I guess. But so yeah, fast forward from that, and after my parents had moved, I literally just fell into the world, and went through a real big heartbreak. And so it was kind of like after my heart just kind of got thrown in a blender, thrown down the garbage disposal, and taken out to the trash. I was like, that's it. Like, I am on a mission. And that mission was for me. And so as, I know that doesn't sound right, but that was my frame of mind. So basically my checklist, I got married. It was like, check. I had a successful career, check. I was on the mission for that, and to be somebody. Social lifestyle, check, trips, check, all that, everything. What more could one ask, right? And in other words, I was basically, just become one with the world. I was totally one with the world. And that was the lifestyle I was living. And, there was just this void, though. And it just felt like it was getting wider, deeper, and bigger. And then one day, someone had given me a book on spiritual warfare, and it intrigued me. And I read that book from like cover to cover. This was warfare. And I was like, oh yeah. And in this time, I was seeking out Christian congregations. So between the book, seeking out Christian congregations, I was like, oh yeah, this is my thing. I am going to help people. I am going to, and I was pretty mouthy. About it, like me coming up against doctor, and not realizing I was going into warfare unarmed. And again, that's what the enemy banks on, right? So, and this is what I'm going to do to darkness, right? Stuff like that. Like literally, I took my sword out with no armor and started just swinging it around. I don't recommend that. I really don't. It's not a good idea, people. So kind of hold that thought, because I do want to say something about it, like kind of after. That's kind of interesting. Sure. How doors, having an open door, and kind of how what I feel happened to me leading up to my testimony. So I don't remember exactly the time frame from reading this book and seeking out the congregations to the time where I just started not feeling well. And I just wasn't feeling good. I was feeling really dizzy, to the point where I was literally on the verge of passing out, sick to my stomach, nauseous, and this was happening. It was getting progressive to the point where I think it's time to go see a neurologist. So, anyways, we went to a neurologist and had testing done. And one of the tests, of course, was an MRI. And the MRI showed a glioma. And a glioma is a brain tumor. Okay. And it was a tectal glioma. So, which meant that this brain tumor was in the middle of the tectal plate. And I'm going to refer to the tumor as it and the, because words are powerful and I'm not going to claim it. I'm not going to call it on myself. Yeah. So I will refer to it as,
good.
Yeah, this is my testimony. You know that, but it's it and the, but I'll say tumor. Yep. So it was a tectal glioma in the middle of the tectal plate. And it was pretty, according to the doctor, it was, not a good location. And he basically said that there was, there's nothing more that they could do. Oh, by the way, I did want to say this, that a glioma is found in children. So he was a little taken back by that, because he said, it's kind of interesting that you're diagnosed with a glioma, because a glioma is usually found in children, not adults. So
yeah, I had a cousin that passed from glioblastoma.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, with the brain tumors, or the tumors on the brain and stuff like that. Yeah, it's more common than I thought with children.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's kind of a.
Oh no, you're good. I was little. I didn't know.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like a soft spot with me when I hear, like, if someone's struggling with that. It's like, I just, any sickness really. It's tumor, cancer, anything. It's heart-wrenching, because you just know it's the work of the enemy. It's not a blessing.
Right.
So this tectal glioma, it was there, and the doctor had said, well, because of the location, there's nothing more we can do. We can't test to see if it's cancerous. We cannot operate. None of that was an option, because it would literally, it would just cause more damage, and could leave someone in a state of being just a vegetable. Don't say that, but that's, so they couldn't do it. They couldn't do anything else. The only thing they could do were MRIs. So he said he wanted to do as many MRIs as close as possible, as safe as possible, to keep an eye on it and to just track the growth of it. And so it was like, okay, that's all we can do. And as you can imagine, like my husband and my family, my parents, everyone was devastated and they were sad. And it's funny, I wasn't. I just wasn't. And I even questioned them, like, why are you guys so sad? Like, why? And, I said, doesn't this give God a chance to do what he does? And trust me, I did not, as mouthy as I was, I did not say this sarcastically. I really meant it. Like, great, doctors can't do anything, but he can. And so that I couldn't understand their being just so upset. So anyways, moving forward from that, like, months had passed and I had literally learned to still have a good time while having this sickness and, or not feeling good, I should say, just really not feeling good. But I still learned to figure out how I'm still going to go out and have my social life and, all the VIP, everything that we were doing with the company that we were with, it's like, I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to figure out how to, work around not feeling good. And I got really good at it, by the way, until I came down with adult chicken pox on top of it. And it's kind of funny, and it's not, but we were coming back from a company trip. We were on the plane, we were in row 2. Plane was getting ready to leave. The doors were already up. Last minute, it's like the doors open. And I'm like, what? Like, they don't do that. And this very, very diseased looking sick man plops in front of us in row 1. And I was like,
Oh.
and I looked at my husband. I'm like, I'm going to catch something. Word curse. Spoke it over myself. Words are powerful, people.
no.
You guys should
Wow.
definitely do a broadcast on words and what we
Yeah.
speak. Because so
Yeah.
10 days later, right? 10 days later, I start not feeling good. Like really not feeling good. And I didn't know what was going on. So, I mean, not so bad that I had to go to the ER because I just didn't know what was happening to my body. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't just like sickness or anything like that. So they, stuck this long thing up my nose, which was really uncomfortable. And they said, yeah, you have a virus. Nothing we can do at this point, and your body's gonna have to work it out. So it's like, great, wonderful, thanks for nothing, right? So the next day, I know, right? And so the next day, I'm on the floor, like, I don't know what death feels like, but I felt like there was a death angel hovering over me. Literally, I felt like my organs were getting ready to shut down, and I literally pleaded with my husband and said, will you please take me back to the ER? And so we end up going, and now at this point, I'm starting to feel things pop out on my body, on my face, and I look in the mirror, even driving, I'm like, what the heck? All these like dots, like these red dots popping out on my face, and I'm like, what the heck? So I go in, and they're like, yeah, you have adult chicken pox. And it's like, what? So, and then what the doctor said to me, I was like, who says that? He says, well, at your age, they looked at my records, and he said, with what you have going on with the brain thing, he said the brain tumor, he said, with that in adult chicken pox, which is extremely dangerous at your age, he said, you have a 17% chance of survival rate. And then he said, or 83% chance of being seriously hospitalized. And I'm like, I rebuked it immediately. Because remember, I'm reading this warfare book. So I'm like, I rebuke you. I didn't say it to him, but I said it when he walked out. And I'm like, who says that? Like, who said, how dare him put like a death sentence on me? Right? So by the time we get home, and by the time we get home, I'm covered. I'm like, these things they're like relentless. They're popping out everywhere. I looked so diseased by the time we got home. And so we had picked up some oatmeal, like for an oatmeal bath, some stuff that really for an oatmeal bath. And so I'm standing in front of the mirror, 2 huge mirrors in my bathroom, and getting ready to take this oatmeal bath. And you guys, it was disgusting. I mean, I looked disgusting. I was covered from head to toe, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I think any normal person would have cried. I didn't. I laughed. And I literally laughed. I laughed out loud. That's how bad I looked. And maybe it was nerves, I don't know. But I literally laughed out loud, and I was like, anything else, God? And that was kind of sarcastic. Yeah, forgive me of my ignorance. And then, but I did say, okay, God, you've got my attention. And got in the tub, started praying. I started praying, and this is what I learned from the book is pleading the blood. So I was pleading the blood of, I'm just going to say Yeshua, you guys, because I don't like saying the J name. So I started pleading the blood of Yeshua over every diseased looking spot on my body. And I'll tell you what, after that, if one more person said to me in my family, have you read the book of Job? I swear I was going to really lose it. But I started just praying the blood of Yeshua over my body like every day. And I'll tell you, it was like maybe 10, 12 days, but it was less than 2 weeks. They were gone. They were all gone. Like every spot was gone. However, I was housebound for 3 months because I could not risk getting encephalitis of the brain. So I was pretty much quarantined, isolated. My husband didn't even stay in the room. I was pretty much, isolated for 3 months. And so after, making that statement, okay, God, you've got my attention, I was now purposed. I was purposed to position myself before him. And I had this really big, like, just beautiful chair beside my bed. And I just kind of pictured, and not, I don't do visual anything, no New Age. I don't do any of that. I'm just telling you what I
Right.
did then. I just pictured that Yeshua was sitting there watching over me, that he had me, that he was there. And it's like, it's all I had. Like, I was isolated. And so I was purposed to basically be positioned before him. And I couldn't do anything, couldn't go anywhere. So it was perfect. So I'll tell you that so positioning before him and praying and singing and glorifying him, that's all I did. But I never, ever, not once, and trust you me, not one time did I ask or pray or plead for healing. Not one time. For now we're talking about the brain. So not once. So all I did do, and I'm not saying this is, I'm not giving anyone a formula. This is just what I did. But I do believe praising Yah and praising his name and blessing his name does birth a whole lot of something in the spiritual realm and in the natural realm. I believe that with all of my heart. So that's what I did. So every day I would get up from the time I got up to the time I went to bed, with the, exception of eating and washing up. I was basically on the floor just praising him and blessing him and glorifying and telling him how much I love him. Now, there's two things I did ask for. And one of those things was I just started talking to him, and I just said, I said God, but I'll say if this is your will, if it's your time to take me home to be with you, and that's how I prayed. I said, if it's your time, if this is your will, and if I'm done here, if you're done with me here, please, and this is what I did plead for. I said, please show me, teach me all about you before I meet you face to face. So I just, I cried out, I want to know you. I want to know who you are. I want to know how you feel. I want to know Yeshua. I want to know all about you. And I did ask him, please don't take me until you show me who you are. And so I did, and I'm forgive me if I get emotional, because this is very emotional to me. And so he, I had about, obviously I had a Bible. He brought me right to the beginning. That is when he brought me to the beginning. I didn't know at the time I was hearing the Ruach inside of me, but I heard start at the beginning. Wasn't audible. I heard it from within. So I was just like, okay. So he brought me right to Genesis 1:1 in the beginning. And from that time, he started just spoon feeding me his instructions. And oh my gosh, you guys, it was just, to me, it was just so beautiful. And I couldn't wait, like when I fell asleep, I couldn't wait to get up and get on the floor and just start blessing him and praising him. And one morning, all I felt to do was just plead the blood of Yeshua. And just not only plead the blood of Yeshua, but praise the blood of Yeshua. That his blood that was poured forth for me. And just exalting him and just telling him how beautiful he is and how beautiful his name is. And I've never seen him, by the way, but that's how I was praying. And just exalting him. It's like I couldn't get enough of just exalting him. And I was really focused that day on the blood of Yeshua. And that's what came out the most. And the second thing that I asked for was about to happen. And I had no idea it was about to happen. And that second thing is that I wanted to, because I read about it and heard about it, I really wanted to speak a love language, his love language. It's the scriptures, and some people call it tongues, and maybe that's what you call it. But I was asking for something personal. I was asking for, and I had said love language. I said, please, please bless me with a love language to come out of me that's only between me and you. That's just, I just wanted to communicate with him, or have him communicate through me, that no other entity could pick up on, no demon, no nothing. I wanted it that close and that personal, like from the inside, if you will. Like just, I wanted to be brought into his chambers. And so I was praying and I was exalting, and everything was about the blood of Yeshua and just praising. And then all of a sudden, a language started coming out, and it startled me because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I stopped. I like stopped it. And then I just started praying regular again, and it happened again. And it probably happened maybe 3 times before I caught on, but no more than 3. And then I realized what was happening, and I was like, and then I repented immediately. And it was as soon as I surrendered and just let go and just let him take over is when, oh my gosh, it was like literally the term tongues of fire. I can relate to that because that's what it felt like. It was this heat that came upon my body. It was like it was on fire. And this language that was coming out in 2 words, and I didn't know Hebrew, I didn't know Torah, I didn't know anything, but 2 words that I remember hearing that came out strong and came out a lot was Melech, which means king, and Melachim, which means kingdom. I didn't know what that meant until later on. I was like, whoa, that is awesome. But so during that time, so as I'm praying and just tongues of fire is coming up, my body literally was like so heated up, and I felt, it's like I felt this weight come upon me. And the only way I can describe it, it was heavy. It was really, really heavy, but not uncomfortable. Like the fire felt like it was burning, like I felt like a furnace, but I didn't, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was hot. And my body was like going through, definitely something was happening, but it wasn't uncomfortable. And the only thing I can liken it to is that his glory, it's like his glory and his power, like his kingdom literally just came down on me. So I was like dripping soaking wet, sweating like you would not believe. And this language, Melachim, Melech, and all this was coming out of my mouth. And there was a couple other languages but it was like speaking another language. It wasn't this gibberish, false fire crap, I will call it crap, that's out there. That's just, it's not real. It's just not. Yeah. And I can say that because I know what it sounds like. So during all this, I couldn't move. My body literally felt like it was paralyzed. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my arms. The only thing that was moving was my mouth. And this language was coming out, and this weight was on me. And this went on for over an hour, and I was just completely undone. I was exhausted, and I ask Yah to forgive me every time I think about this or speak about this, because I tried to stop it a few times. That's how exhausted I was. I was just so exhausted, and yeah, forgive me. It's like, oh my gosh, to bask in that experience again, I would love to. But so went on for over an hour, and then like it was kind of like all of a sudden, it just like I felt something just lifting off of me, like it was just lifting, like it just lifted off. And after it lifted off of me, I was literally on the floor like a soaking wet, soggy noodle. I still couldn't move, and I still couldn't talk. And I it's like I had no feeling in my body, like in my legs. I couldn't get up. And I just laid there for a minute, and I tried to just bless his name, and I couldn't speak. I couldn't speak without another language coming out. Like I could not put 2 syllables together. Like I couldn't say, bless you, Father, or bless you, God. I couldn't say any of that. It's like my tongue, it wouldn't like, it wasn't connecting with my teeth, and my lips weren't working. Things weren't. It's like every time I went to say something, like another language would come out. And I heard a lot of Hebrew, but didn't know any of it. And so it was about it, that probably lasted a little over an hour just to even be able to like crawl. And I was excited. I wanted to tell my mom because we had been praying together, like we started this journey together. And I couldn't get up, but I used my elbows and my arms and crawled to my foot. And it wasn't like I just did it like you would do in combat, like you could just crawl on the ground. It was a struggle. It was a real struggle. And I got close enough to my phone to just grab it. And I called her, and I still couldn't speak, but I wanted to share it with her. And she was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" She thought something was wrong and something happened to me. And then she realized something pretty magnificent just happened. And she's like, "Call me later, just call me later." And I did later when I could actually speak, somewhat normal. But so that was the most incredible experience that I ever felt. And so the thing is, so I had an MRI coming up in a couple months, and we did the MRI, and it came back. The tumor was gone. It was just gone.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And, I honestly, even hearing myself talk right now about it, I'll tell you, you guys, words can't define the moment. There is no words that can define what happened to me that day. I don't know how to define his power and his glory that I felt. I mean, the English language, any language does it no justice. But I know now the glory of Yah was upon me that day. And why he chose me for that, I'm just forever thankful, because who am I? Who are we? That he's so mindful of us, right? And that scripture, when King David cried that out, it's like, I'm still in awe, still in awe. And I'm just, I just kind of get all tripped up even talking about it, because it just, it never ceases to amaze me. And it was all birthed out of praise. And that's the thing too that I really, really want to emphasize, that it was praising him. I didn't feel sorry for him. I wasn't like, oh, I was just diagnosed, and I didn't keep calling it. I didn't claim it. I just praised, and I just pleaded with him to know him. I just wanted to know him. And boy, I'll tell you, he, it's just amazing.
Well, you also surrendered. You didn't just praise him. You also like completely and utterly surrendered. I mean, you were on the ground.
Yeah. And there was something with that, just, even like when I felt that, and I know some people are a little, different on how they feel about, tongues or another language coming out. And you know what? I don't blame you, because I've been in congregations where I heard the Ruach inside of me say, get out now. And I literally, scenes caused, because I would rip through people and I bolted for those doors. Felt like I was in the middle of a seance. So, there's a lot of false fire out there, and that could be another whole program, because I'll tell you, I've experienced a lot. And after this, witnessing, like this, some pretty magnificent things were happening right afterwards as well. And I'll tell you, the attacks came. Oh boy, did they come. They came on strong. Through dreams that I knew were dreams. I was there facing it. First couple times I was, like wake up like, and like, just my heart pounding. And then I got used to it. Like, okay, Yah's teaching me something here. And to the point where I started getting confident in these episodes, if you will. Saw dark shadows with my eyes wide open, been choked. I mean, so many things that I experienced with attacks. It was kind of amazing, but I also experienced some pretty wonderful things too. Like the Ruach was drawing me to the back of the house to pray. And at that time we were overlooking beautiful property, and just like all open property. And I would go back there and just pray and praise his name. And I had open visions, and he was really, really, really teaching me, informing me, and speaking. And there was some pretty magnificent things that happened. So, but the attacks came with it. Sure did.
What were some of the attacks? And now, were they attacks, or like in hindsight, was it more of a testing?
Well, they were attacks. I'll share one with you
They were
that
attacks.
that
Okay.
was very, very much alive. So one night I was, just staring, and just to give you a visual, the way my bedroom was at the time, the whole back of the house was kind of glass, so you could see out at the property. It was kind of secluded. It was pretty. So lying in my bed, I didn't have to like sit up to see the sky or anything. It's like I could just see, I could see the property and see things. It's just pretty. And we had metal front doors. There were two like big metal front doors, and there's a reason why I say this. So one night I'm just staring at the sky, and I'm praying, and I saw a dark shadow kind of like swoosh over me, and my husband, and I was like, okay. And then I seen it again, swoosh. I probably saw it like 3 times, and I felt a spirit of death. I felt it. So I nudged my husband, and I said, "Hey, did you lock the doors? Did you lock the front doors?" And he's like, "Yeah." So right after that, he fell right back to sleep, like right back to sleep. And so I'm staring up at the ceiling again, and I see a shadow again. Maybe it was 2, and then this was the 3rd one. I don't remember, but there were a few shadows. So I'm awake. I was not sleeping. And then all of a sudden I felt a grip on my neck, like on my neck to choke me. And I started speaking forth. Yeah, this was real. It wasn't even a dream that I knew I was in a dream. And so I started saying, the blood of Yeshua is against you. The blood of Yeshua is against you. And every time I said the blood of Yeshua, and again, that's kind of all I really knew what to do at this point. And I didn't say Yeshua at the time, but I'm saying it now. So every time I said the blood of Yeshua is against you, the grip got tighter and tighter, to the point where I was being choked. I know what it feels like to be choked. I couldn't breathe. So now no words were coming out of my mouth. So I thought, okay, well, yeah, you can hear my thoughts. You can hear my thoughts. So I kept thinking, the blood of Yeshua is against these demons, is against this spirit of death. And I really could not breathe, you guys. And then finally, it just like the grip got loosed. And literally when I felt that get loose, it was like I took a deep breath, because I couldn't breathe. So it's like, just imagine being choked, and after being choked, you would be like, you know what I mean? You would take that deep breath. So
Yeah.
that was real. And I hesitate to tell, I don't tell a lot of people that. I've shared it with, brother, I've shared it with a few people, but not a lot. But that was very real, and kind of frightening, yeah. But I knew what was happening, and Yah's with us, and he hears our thoughts. And I thought that was like really a moment of probably testing too, if I was still going to trust him through it. And in my thoughts, he could hear my thoughts. So I just kept pressing through, knowing that he could, release me from this or deliver me from whatever was happening. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this walk in particular?
Well, okay, so it did start with being housebound for 3 months, when Yah brought me right to Genesis 1:1. And then I just started searching, and the scriptures, the beginning, it's like we've never read the beginning. And so then, my mom and I were talking, I'm like, we've got to find like a Sabbath keeping, congregation, and we need to learn more about this. And we did end up going to one, and that's how it all started. And that was really how it all started. I right from being laid up for those 3 months and him bringing, just literally bringing me to Genesis 1:1. Literally, when I say I feel like he was spoon feeding me, I really do feel that's what was happening. He was literally teaching me, because remember, I asked him, I pleaded. I was pleading with him to teach me everything I didn't know about him. I wanted to know him before, if this was my time, before, if I were to meet him face to face. And I don't think it works like that. I didn't know that then, but that's how I prayed. And it was a desperate heart cry that I really wanted to know him. It was desperate. And so that's what began that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well,
Wow.
so how I have a couple questions. How far into the 3 months did this moment happen? Where he drew you to it, to his word.
Well, I would say, so it was probably a couple weeks of just praying, and I would write, like, I love to write, so I would journal, but it was more like I was just writing him love letters every day and praising him. And I didn't at that time even open up the scriptures. I was just writing him from my heart and just speaking and praying. And
Yeah.
and I would say it was probably a good 7 weeks or so before I felt his glory come upon me. And that was like a consistent 7 weeks of asking for that special love language just between me and him. So that was about 7 weeks. Now, when did I act? Did he bring me to Genesis 1:1? Was it before that or after that? I had to be before that. I don't know. I'd have to check my. I'm not quite sure on the timing on that, brother. I'm sorry. I should have that down to the day.
No,
But
it's all good. I know that these moments, I can speak for myself.
Well, I'll tell you, it definitely wasn't the latter.
What was that? Sorry, I cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. It definitely was not the latter part. It was not like, it was within the first, I would say it was within that first 7 weeks before all that happened. And then all that happened. But I was still housebound because I didn't know I was healed. I had no idea. I was still housebound. I was housebound for 3 months until that MRI. It was time for that MRI. And then I knew it was gone. So it was like, oh, I was beside myself, Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like y'all just burned the tumor out of you. Just burned it right up.
You know it.
Do you want to talk about that MRI and get into like the...
I'm sorry? Uh-oh. I think we're having a connection problem. Can you?
Oh, yeah, I think we are having a connection problem. What were you saying, nobody? We missed you.
Oh, I was just saying, do you want to go into some details about that MRI? About like those around you and just kind of the overall
well, it's interesting.
Impressions, their opinions, their feelings.
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, my mom she was just, oh my gosh, she was like right with me, praising him and blessing him. And we just couldn't get enough. We were like rejoicing like you would not believe. And my dad, yeah, he was really, wowed by it. My sister, everybody was pretty happy and was like, wow, really? It was kind of more like that. I would say my mom rejoiced the most. My husband, I don't think it fazed him. I really don't. And I'm not speaking ill. He's a wonderful man. But it didn't faze him. He's really not on this walk. And there were things that happened that he saw with his eyes wide open. And, it just doesn't stick, But there was a lot of rejoicing with me and my mom, and I was just, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I just was undone. I couldn't talk about it without bawling my eyes out. And I'm still in awe that, and now for me, it's like, I, I just believe him for everything, for everything. And because I've had that experience, we should believe him anyways. But I've had that experience, so like, there's no excuse for me. Like, any diagnosis, whatever, it's like, to me, lie. It's a lie. It's just a lie. I don't believe it. And it's his timing,
Sure.
when he's the author and finisher of our life, and nobody is going to call a death sentence on me. I won't allow it or anything. But it was a time of rejoicing. It certainly was. And I'll give you another quick testimony that was interesting with my husband, that he never did drugs or smoked or anything, but he wasn't feeling well, and he had a friend that's a cardiologist, and they did some testing and saw that he had blockages, and it was kind of interesting, like, wow, how did you get those? But high cholesterol, did they claim it runs in his family. I wouldn't claim any generational curse like that, but they did. And so the day that he had to go have the blockages, and they were going to catheterize him, they did that. They brought him back, and our friend didn't do the surgery. He was just going to oversee it because of the relationship, being a friend. It was like 15, no, maybe it was more than 15 minutes. I don't remember how long, but they brought him back, and he came into the room, and he's scratching his head, and he said, I'm so sorry. And that's probably not the first word you want to say to somebody. And I said, well, what's wrong? But I had my Bible with me. I was praying and reading. And he said, I would have never let them catheterize him. He said, there's nothing there. And he did ask me to pray over him the night before. And I did. I laid hands on him and I prayed over him. And when they asked me, do you need anything? Are you comfortable? I said, I held up my Bible and I said, nope, I've got all I need right here. And when they came back and said, he said, I don't understand. He said, I've got both films side by side, and we're looking at the blockages and we're looking at nothing. He said, I have like 3 surgeons looking at this in case we miss something. He said, there's nothing there. And I said, he goes, I don't understand. And I said, I do. And, but even after that, my husband was like, I forget the comment he made, but I shut it down real fast and rebuked it. And it's like, you need to give Yas some glory here. And, but some people just, some people, it's just going to take another minute, I guess. I don't know, to believe.
Wow.
That's really incredible, though. I mean, look, that's scripture just jumping off the pages into our physical lives,
Oh, you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wild.
So what I did want to say about the generational, the book. So I had some things against me, right? So first of all, I was unarmed going into warfare, right? And it's like, I really just don't recommend anyone doing any kind of warfare, or, I mean, if you're not in obedience or in covenant with Yah, it's like, yeah, his mercy, I don't know what, I mean, his mercy is his mercy. But it's like, I think the enemy banks on this. So my mom had a brain tumor, same age. Okay. Same age. She had a brain tumor that was wrapped around the stem of her brain. It was a 16-hour surgery. She actually had to go to surgery, and it was 16 hours long. And they had the very same surgery the day before, the doctor, and he lost the woman on the table. And so we were a little nervous about this, but we were praying.
Oh, wow.
But I thought it was interesting that she had a brain tumor. So when I was diagnosed with this, and I had that book, and it talked all about generational curses, I'm like, this is a generational curse. But I didn't know. I thought I was good because I knew about the blood. And, and I don't say that sarcastically. I don't mean it like that. But you know how this Christian churches are like, you name it and claim it, you're saved, you're good. You know, you can still live in sin, but as long as you have, you know, the
Yeah.
blood of Yeshua, you're good. And no, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not diminishing any of that, but it's people don't realize, you know. So for me, I feel like, okay, that was a generational curse, and my door was wide open because I was still in sin, and some sin unaware, right? But and I was going into warfare, literally challenging darkness, and so yeah, I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
It's funny, but
Oh wow.
That's a good point. I mean, I have some in-laws on my wife's side of the family who, shoot, they suffered from like 11 years of seizures before they finally found deliverance through that. But the cause of it was going into warfare, or what the perceived cause of it was going into warfare without your armor on.
oh yeah,
And it opened up some doors for her. And yeah, but that's I think you're right. I think the enemy does bank on that, on people going into warfare unprepared, half cocked, with just like a few words that they think they can say, and everything is going to be okay, and they're going to be safe and protected and all that type of stuff. I think you're 100% right.
yeah, I do feel that, and I feel like, you know, that was a
Yeah, you
pure
gotta have
example. Go ahead, brother. Uh-oh.
I was gonna say you gotta have that obedience factor as part of the armor.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Very
not a
good point.
game. It's not a game. And I'll say the
Yeah.
name of the book, I hesitate to say it, but I will say it. Should I say it? Is it okay to say it? The name of the book that I was reading?
That's up to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the name of the book,
Sure.
and I still have it. I still have it, by the way. It's called What's His Name? What's His Game? And you know, it's talking about the enemy, right? And it talks about what's his game, and it talks about all these open doors and generational curses and how they come in through disobedience and stuff like that. So it was, what's his name? What's his game? And when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like on it. Like, you know, yeah, but it's nothing to take. It's nothing. I mean, that was ignorant, right? That is so ignorant. We don't challenge. We just don't do that. You know, we know our hope is in Yah. We know that His, you know, His power, His strength and might is, you know, against the enemy, against darkness, and you know, some fights we try to fight that aren't even ours. You know, it's not our fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That was one of the causes of the 11 years of seizures with that extended family member, was that she was taking on battles that weren't her fight. Wow. Now, is that a book that you recommend people reading, or was it just like got you in more trouble than good?
Well, at that time, it got me in more trouble. But if someone's in covenant and walking in the instructions of Yah, you know, the Torah, her instructions, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, because we need to. Sometimes there are things that we do and we don't even realize that it's an open door to darkness. And like I said, like the enemy plans on this. He banks on our ignorance, you know, lack of knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And there are things that we bring into our homes. I mean, you bring a cursed item into your home, you know, you're bringing a curse into your house. And scripture clearly states that. So, but what do you define as a curse? You know, did you just pick up something from, you know, another country where they do voodoo, hoodoo, whatever do? You know, I mean, did you bring it in your home? Is it a magnet on your refrigerator? Is it a carved, something that they carved and called a curse over it before you bought it? You know, I had some of these items, and that's why I say that. I went to an island and brought this stuff home, and when I learned about this, I tried to burn it. It wouldn't burn. And I used to have pictures. I took them off my phone years ago, though, and it was out where we lived with all the land. but I had it out front and I put them in a big pot. There were a few, it was wood, just wooden items that were carved. And I tried to burn them and the flames were coming up, but I could see faces in the flames. And I was taking pictures of it. And it wasn't like you stare at a cloud and can make something.
Wow.
It wasn't like that. These were clear. And one of them, I saw a pregnant woman like holding her belly. And then there was this like weird looking face under her feet. It was just weird stuff. And this is when a group that I was praying with and this was the Torah, when the first congregation I went to that was Sabbath keeping. And we started like learning this stuff also, like warfare. And I was showing her the pictures, and she had some pictures too. There's some things she was trying to burn. All my yoga books burned. I had a wheelbarrow filled with yoga, all this stuff. And people don't realize, you don't know, no one does the history, right? You don't do the history. You don't know that these things are stemmed in Kundalini, the Kundalini spirit. And some people are like, Kundalini, what is that? It's like, do your research, people. My people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
I used to do yoga. I used to do Bikram yoga.
Now, when oh wow, did you go down to Yogaville and all that?
Well, I used
over
to
in Virginia.
No, I didn't do that. I didn't go. I just local, but I was doing hot yoga, and when I started learning about the Kundalini, I'm like, oh my gosh, I repented, but I wanted this thing, like I wanted to be free of it, and I was sharing this, and one day, one afternoon, praying with a sister, and we were talking about the Kundalini and repenting and all that, and I literally felt like heat go up my spine, and we were repenting, and I was repenting, and she literally kind of saw something and got scared, and she had like a cutout window in her kitchen that looked into the dining room. She literally ran into the kitchen and was just like looking at me through the little window, and it's like, yeah, thanks, sister, for praying over me, but I could feel like this heat going up my spine. Right? I could feel this heat going up my spine, and literally went through my head and out. Like I felt like there was probably something like that just left my body from repentance and prayer. So people don't realize this stuff is real, and we've got to repent of it. And open doors. There's open doors. Just some things that may seem innocent too, and it's like, I mean, literally, I prayed and asked the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, to guide me through the house and show me whatever needed to go. And in one of the garages that we had, there were these, and I didn't even know because it wasn't my garage, it was my husband's. I had my own. So in there were like all his tools and stuff, but shoved in the corner behind a bunch of tools and all this stuff. I went into the garage because I felt the Ruach telling me to go there, and I'm looking around, and I found behind the tools, like I think it was 3 or 4 sticks, long sticks that one of our clients literally carved. He carves like these sticks, like these big long like canes and sticks, but it was like all carved with like these faces on it and stuff. So it's like, okay, I was like, gotcha. And I like rebuked it, and they were out you go, out in the trash. So, yeah.
Wow. My wife and I did something similar to that after our deliverance. We were praying and asking if there were any unclean objects in the house. And one of the unclean objects was something that we inherited, or that she inherited from it was like a great uncle. I don't know. He was a super high level Mason, very well to do, very well off and stuff like that. And it was this hutch, like this almost like a stand-alone cabinet thing that you can put in the kitchen. I didn't know what that was until my wife pointed it out. It's called a hutch, apparently. But so I'm like, all right, that thing's got to go. Time to take it out to the property and burn it. And as I'm like bussing it up in the front yard so I can easily put it. This thing was super solid and heavy, so I'm busting it up into these smaller pieces, and I'm throwing it in the back of the truck. And I get to the property, and I'm about to start catching it on fire, and I'm just breaking it down even more. And I start pulling the drawers out, and I notice underneath the drawer liner was in each one of these drawers, underneath the drawer liner, were these like drawings of birds. It was super random, and they
Huh.
were like very well drawn drawings of birds. But underneath every single one of these liners was a drawing of a different bird. It did like nothing was
Wow.
menacing about the photo, but it seemed super odd. Like, okay, if you did such a good job drawing this, why did you put it underneath the drawer liner in the drawer? Like
Yeah.
it seemed like it was placed there with the intent of not being found. So
Wow.
yeah, as far
Yeah.
as burning cursed objects, that one lit up pretty doggone well. In
Wow.
fact, I had it inside of a metal drum, and then there was another metal bucket with a lid on in it, and that was made out of galvanized steel, and there were actually holes that were melted in the sides of that bucket. It burned so hot.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Praise yeah.
Praise, yeah.
Hey,
Praise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are there any final words you'd like to leave the audience with, or are there any words of encouragement or a prayer you'd like to do at the end of this?
Yeah, I really do. And it is because like what I had shared or said in the beginning, that what's been on me for the past couple of weeks about hope being deferred, making the heart sick, that really has been pressed on me. So with sharing this testimony, and I do want to, in other testimonies that have gone out, but I do want to say a little prayer. So it is my hope
Yeah, that's
that,
perfect.
yeah,
That's
okay.
perfect.
So it is my hope that many are encouraged to believe that we do serve a merciful Father, right? And this has just been so pressed on me, even lately with other things that are going on in my life. He is so merciful. He's our creator. He knows us inside and out. And I just feel like he wants us to be whole and healthy, right? But we just have to believe. So I just pray that wisdom to, through faith, to be desperately cried out for. And scripture says that when we cry out for it, he gives it to us. He's going to give it to us. We're to ask for wisdom. So I just pray that wisdom go forth and just enter every heart that is surrendered to him and that is desperately crying out for him. I just pray that no matter like whatever situation that anyone is going through out there, whether it's a crisis, a bad situation, bad report, lost hope, anything that anyone is fearing, I just pray for faith to go forth in Yeshua's name, and for just to have that belief in the one that commands the wind and the waves, right? Just have faith in him. He is real. He is powerful. And no matter what the situation is, just believe that he's our conquering king. I pray that. And I just pray for, his power to go forth and with belief and to enter the hearts of those who are trusting and believing and just crying out for him right now, and to let our peace be anchored in him. Let our feet be anchored in his word, and to just trust him. I guess just trust him and believe him. So I do pray over anyone that's hurting right now or just desperately seeking. I just pray for hope and peace to just enter your heart. And I pray these testimonies to go forth and just speak to your situation. And just know that we have a conquering king that has defeated darkness. He has defeated sickness and disease. He has defeated death. And there's nothing better than that. And he loves us. So I just want to glorify Yeshua. Bless their name. In Yeshua's name, I just pray. I pray that Yah bless you all, keep you all, under the shadow of his wings, protected and loved and encouraged. In Yeshua's name, Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I agree.
Yeah. Can't think of a better way to end a testimony episode for sure. And guys, if you want to give your testimony on the podcast, you do it anonymously. Shoot us an email at exiledstrangers@proton.me. That's exiledstrangers@proton.me. And we look forward to having you on the show. You got any final words, nobody?
No, it's just a wonderful and powerful testimony. And sister, you're more than welcome to come back at any time. If we want to go through any of these different topics, deliverance, speaking in tongues, and dig into the biblical truths behind them. So I'd love to have you
Absolutely.
back.
Amen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. It was fun.